Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Monday, January 30th, 2023. Today I'm going to recap the NFL games from yesterday. And then we have the NBA, NHL, college basketball games from the weekend. Look ahead to tonight's game. Same with the notable soccer games. We have the Australian Open finals to recap. We have the golf to talk about, the Farmers Insurance Open. I have a mock bracket for you guys today for the first time in a while. News and notes and best bet. I'll start the NFL. We'll go over the results of the games, and we will briefly touch on some Super Bowl storylines. So the first of the two games today was the Eagles over the 49ers, 31-7. As the Eagles advance to their second Super Bowl in 6 seasons, and the 49ers lose in the NFC title game for the second consecutive year with their fourth-string quarterback because Brock Purdy left the game with what was reported to be a UCL injury, and then he came back in the game because Josh Johnson got concussed. So it all went wrong for the 49ers. They were very undisciplined. Their defense was good in the first half, but they're just undisciplined. They were undisciplined the entire game. And to give Philly credit, they were dominant. They were the way better team from start to finish. There was some poor officiating in this game and the other game too. But Devontae Smith made what we thought was an amazing catch on fourth down. But the Eagles rushed to set up the next play to the point where the 49ers couldn't challenge. So the 49ers were not picking it up on that end because that should have been a challenge. And if the 49ers saw it right away, that would have been challenged and overturned. And that, I don't know if they still win the game because of the quarterback thing, but they were clearly not ready. They looked like the Giants from the week prior, and the Eagles are flying off to the Super Bowl in Glendale. So the AFC title game, the Chiefs over the Bengals 23-20 as they advance to their third Super Bowl in 4 years. The Bengals really shot themselves in the foot in this game as well. Everybody is talking about the unnecessary roughness penalty on that Bengals defender, Joseph Osei, and he knows that he cost him the game. He really made a dirty move on Mahomes, and they caught him on the bench crying after Harrison Butker made the field goal with 3 seconds left. And the Bengals were in that game the whole way. It was going to come down to who messed up. And reality is that the Bengals messed up, especially Osei, because of that hit. And the Chiefs take advantage, get the 45-yard field goal, and win the game to go to their third Super Bowl in 4 seasons. So that sets up a Super Bowl that features the best quarterback in the league in Patrick Mahomes, the likely MVP winner, against the team that's been the best team in the league all season long in the Philadelphia Eagles. You have Andy Reid, who was the Eagles coach for 14 seasons and is now in his 10th season with the Chiefs. So Andy Reid against his former team. You have a set of brothers on each team. The Kelce's. Travis Kelce's the great tight end on the Chiefs. And then Jason Kelce, the center on the Eagles. And there's a lot of other interesting subplots to this as well. But the fact that it's best quarterback against best team, Andy Reid against his old team, and the Kelce's, I think, are the three that jump out to me the most. And then obviously Jalen Hurts, who was the MVP frontrunner before he got injured at the end of the season as well. So the quarterbacks both in play for the MVP award is a interesting subplot as well to this game. So we have 2 weeks to talk about it. It was an interesting championship Sunday. Unfortunately, the officiating was a big deal, and you can make a case cost the Bengals especially a real chance to go back to the Super Bowl. I don't think the 49ers could have overcome the bad officiating because of their situation. And they're just really, really undisciplined in their game, as I alluded to earlier. They looked every bit as bad as the New York Giants did against Philly the weekend prior. So we're headed for Eagles-Chiefs, the battle of the 1 seeds in the Super Bowl in 2 weeks. All right, now move on to the NBA. We will recap the games from the weekend, and we will look ahead to tonight's games. Okay, Friday night. Pacers over the Bucks. Bucks over the Pacers, 141-131. Timberwolves over the Grizz, 111-100. Heat over the Magic, 110-105. Thunder over the Cavs, 112-100. Warriors over the Raptors, 129-117. Saturday was a big day in the league. Sixers over the Nuggets, 126-119. Nets over the Knicks, 122-115. Rockets over the Pistons, 117-114. Bulls over the Magic, 128-109. Clippers over the Hawks, 120-113. Timberwolves over the Kings, 117-110. Wizards over the Pelicans, 113-103. Suns over the Spurs, 128-118 in overtime. Celtics over the Lakers, 125-121 in overtime. That was probably the game of the weekend. Jazz over the Mavs, 108-100. And the Raptors over the Blazers, 123-105. Sunday, Hornets over the Heat, 122-117. Grizzlies over the Pacers, 112-100. Cavs over the Clippers, 122-199. And the Bucks over the Pelicans, 135-110. All right, 8 games tonight, 7 o'clock. You have the Magic and the Sixers. Sixers going for 8 in a row. I project them as a 15.5-point favorite, total of 225 and 7/10. And it's 9.5 and 233. So the pick here would be the under. NBA TV, Lakers Nets at 7:30. No LeBron, AD, and Durant. My projections: Brooklyn by 15, total 230 and 13/20, and it's 9 and 230.5. I'm going to lay tonight with Brooklyn. 8 o'clock, Kings Timberwolves. My line is Sacramento by a quarter, total 233 and 3/20, and it is 1 and 237.5 under. Warriors Thunder. My line is Warriors by 5.5, total 234 and 3/20, and it's 4.5 and 243 under. Wizards Spurs. My line is Wizards by 6 3/4, total 230 and 2/5, and it is 6 and 240.5 under. 8:30 Pistons Mavs. My line's Mavs 6.5, total 228 3/4, and it is 8.5 and 229.5. I'm going to take the Pistons getting the points. No Christian Wood in that game. 9 o'clock, the Raptors and the Suns. My line is the Raptors by 1 1/4, total 224 and 17/20. And it's Suns 1.5, total 220.5. I like the over. First over I've given out in a while, I feel like. And then NBA TV at 10 o'clock, Hawks Blazers. My line is Hawks by 1, total 229 and 17/20. And it's Blazers by 2, total 236.5. I like the under in that one. All right, now move on to the NHL. We'll go over the weekend's results, and we will look ahead to tonight's slate. Friday, Canes over the Sharks, 5-4 in OT. This was a crazy game. Sharks scored the empty netter, go up 4-2. Canes come back and win it as Martin Nasas scores the game winner. Kings over the Panthers 4-3. Isles over the Red Wings 2-0. Rangers over the Golden Knights 4-1. Sens over the Leafs 6-2. Devils over the Stars 3-2 in overtime on a game winner by Jack Hughes. Flames over the Kraken 5-2. And the Canucks over the Blue Jackets 5-2. Saturday was a big slate. Avs over the Blues 4-2. Panthers over the Bruins 4-3 in overtime on a game winner by Sam Reinhart. Not a great loss for Boston. Sens over the Habs 5-0. Sharks over the Pens 6-4. Lightning over the Kings 5-2. Flyers over the Jets 4-0. Isles over the Golden Knights 2-1 in OT on a game winner by Matt Barzal. Wild over the Sabres 3-2 in a shootout. Oilers over the Blackhawks 7-3. Kraken over the Blue Jackets 3-1. And the Ducks over the Coyotes 2-1 in overtime on a game winner by Trevor Zegras. And then yesterday, the Canes over the Bruins 4-1 and the Leafs over the Caps 5-1. Only one game tonight, 8 o'clock on the NHL Network. It's the Blues and the Jets. So there's 3 more days of hockey before the All-Star break. So maybe on Thursday or Friday on next week's show, I'll do the power rankings. So it's the Blues and the Jets. The Jets are minus 20. The Blues are plus 180. Over under 6. Overs minus 112. Unders minus 110. Blues plus 1.5 is minus 144. Jets minus 1.5 is plus 116. I like the over 6 minus 112. Okay, now move on to college basketball. We'll go over the weekend's games and look ahead to tonight's games. And then, by the way, for Saturday, I'm just going to go through the notables because of time. All right, we'll start with Friday. Siena over Iona, 70-53. Niagara over Manhattan, 68-62. Rider over Marist, 68-52. St. Louis over Davidson, 74-70. Robert Morris over Detroit, 85-77. Cleveland State over Purdue, Fort Wayne, 79-74. North Dakota State over North Dakota, 91-75. Kent State over Buffalo, 74-68. Youngstown State over Oakland, 77-73. And number 25, New Mexico over Air Force, 81-73. Saturday, like I said, I'm just going to go through notable results. Number 7, Virginia over Boston College, 76-57. West Virginia over number 15, Auburn, 80-77. Temple over UCF, 77-70 in overtime. Notre Dame over Louisville, 76-62. Northwestern over Minnesota, 81-61. Creighton over number 13, Xavier, 84-67. NC State over Wake Forest, 79-77. Oklahoma upsets number 2, Alabama, 93-69. Missouri beats number 12, Iowa State, 78-61. Number 16, Marquette beats DePaul, 89-69. Rhode Island over LaSalle, 72-70. Fordham over George Washington, 85-70. Texas Tech over LSU, 76-68. Number 3, Houston over Cincinnati, 75-69. Duke over Georgia Tech, 86-43. Southern Miss over Texas State, 67-58. Illinois over Wisconsin, 61-51. Mississippi State upsets number 11 TCU, 81-74 in overtime. Number 17 Baylor over Arkansas, 67-64. Hofstra upsets number 18 Charleston, 85-81. Pitt over number 20 Miami, 71-68. Number 21 FAU over Western Kentucky, 70-63. Seton Hall over Butler, 70-49. Dayton over Richmond, 86-60. UMass over Decatur, 87-79. We got Maryland over Nebraska, 82-63. Number 24, Clemson over Florida State, 82-81. Pacific over Santa Clara, 95-89. Number 6, Arizona over Washington, 95-72. Number 4, Tennessee over number 10, Texas, 82-71. Number 5, Kansas State over Florida, 64-50. Georgia over South Carolina, 81-78 in overtime. VCU loses at home to St. Bonaventure, 61-58. Number 14, Gonzaga over Portland, 82-67. Virginia Tech over Syracuse, 85-70. Utah State over Fresno State, 70-53. Marshall over Georgia State, 103-65. Liberty over Florida Gulf Coast, 74-57. Number 9, Kansas over Kentucky, 77-68. Wazoo over Arizona State, 75-58. Oregon over Utah, 68-56. Indiana over Ohio State, 86-70. Boise State over Colorado State, 80-59. Oklahoma State over Ole Miss, 82-60. Texas A&M over Vanderbilt, 72-66. Number 22, St. Mary's over BYU, 57-56. Stanford over Cal, 75-46. UNLV over Nevada, 68-62. San Francisco over San Diego, 94-81. Oregon State over Colorado, 60-52. And Loyola Marymount over Pepperdine, 84-70. So that's your notable results from the weekend for Saturday. And then Sunday, number 23, Providence over Villanova, 70-65. Wichita State over East Carolina, 85-72. Lehigh over BU, 66-55. Penn State over Michigan, 83-61. St. Joe's over George Mason, 76. Number 1, Purdue over Michigan State, 77-61. Iona over Quinnipiac, 78-72. Manhattan over Canisius, 81-74 in overtime. Robert Morris over Oakland, 68-63. Siena over Marist, 70-55. Rider over Fairfield, 79-69 in overtime. St. John's over Georgetown, 75-73. Iowa over Rutgers, 93-82. Youngstown over Detroit, 73-63. Illinois State over Southern Illinois, 72-66. Drake over Belmont, 79-61. Bradley over UIC, 83-76. Furman over UNC Greensboro, 69-57. Cleveland State over IUPUI, 78-72. SMU over South Florida, 82-80. And Memphis over Tulsa, 80-68. And now tonight's game, 7 o'clock ESPN, number 7, Virginia at Syracuse. My line is for this game, Virginia by 8, total 138 and a fifth. And we got 5.5 and 132.5. I like the over. Chicago State, the Citadel. My Citadel 13, total 149.9, and it's 2.5 and 139.5. I'm laying the 2.5 with the Citadel. That's low. Loyola Maryland Colgate on CBS Sports Dark. Lions Colgate by 21 1/4, total 140 and 7/20, and it's 16.5 and 137.5. I'm going to lay the points with Colgate. NC Central Norfolk State on ESPNU. My line's Norfolk by 9, total 141 and 13/20, and we got I can't find this line anywhere, which is odd. Um, 4.5 and 138.5. I'm going to go with, I'm going to lay the points in Norfolk. 7:30 SC State Howard. Mine's Howard 25, total 151 and 9/20, and it's 10.5 and 151.5. I'm going to lay the points. UMass Morgan State. Mine's Morgan State by 3.5, total 141 and 9/20. A lot of these lines are not posted yet, which is odd. UMass 1.5, total 138.5. I'm going to take Morgan State plus 1.5 and plus 105 to win the game outright. Bama A&M Bethune. My line's Bethune by 2, total 143 and a 10th, and it is State by, or A&M by 1.5, total 139.5. I'm going to take Bethune-Cookman plus 1.5 and minus 102 to win. Delaware State, Coppin State. My line is Coppin State by 6, total 147 and 17/20. And like I said, a lot of these MEAC games aren't out yet. 6.5 and 147.5. Oh, it's very close. I'm going to do a slight lean to Delaware State. 8 o'clock, South Dakota State, UMKC. My line, South Dakota State by 2.5, total 134 and 9/10. And it's UMKC by 1.5, total 130.5. So I'm going to go with the over for this one. South Dakota and Oral Roberts. My line is Oral by 17 a quarter, total 46 and 19/20, and it's 15.5 and 153.5. I'm going to take the under. Alcorn State Grambling. My line is Grambling by 4, total 136 and a 20th, and it's 5.5 and 135.5. Slight lean to Alcorn State. Alabama State and Florida A&M. My line is Florida A&M by 2.5 to the 133 and 320. So it looks like this is a 9 o'clock game, and it is 2.5 and 127.5, and 2.5 in favor of Bama State. So for this one, I'm gonna go with the over. Game of the night, 9 o'clock, ESPN, number 17 Baylor, number 10 Texas. My line is Texas by 3 and a quarter. Total 147 and 13/20. And it's 3.5 and 147.5. Woo, very close. Slightest lean to Baylor. ESPN 2, number 12 Iowa State, Texas Tech. My line is Iowa State by 4.5, total 136 and 3/10, and it's 1.5 and 129.5 over. And last but not least, Jackson State Southern on ESPNU. My line is Southern by 13 and a quarter, total 144 and 2/5, and it's 8.5 and 146.5. I'm going to lay the points with Southern. All right, now move on to the soccer from the weekend. We'll go over the notable results and look ahead to today's notable games. The English FA Cup. Friday, Man City over Arsenal 1-0. Saturday, Leicester over Walsall 1-0. Leeds over Accrington 3-1. Fulham and Sunderland 1-1 draw. Southampton over Blackpool 2-1. Ipswich Burnley 0-0 draw. Sheffield Wednesday Fleetwood Town 1-1 draw. Luton and Grimsby Town 2-2 draw. Blackburn Birmingham 2-2 draw. Bristol City over West Brom 3-0. Tottenham over Preston 3-0. And Man United over Reading 3-1. Sunday, Brighton over Liverpool 2-1. Stoke over Stevenage 3-1. And Wrexham and Sheffield United 3-3 draw. And then today you have Derby and West Ham at 2:45. West Ham's minus 150. Derby's plus 380. Draw plus 260. Derby has won a bunch of games in a row. They've won 5 straight. West Ham's awesome. But I'm going to go with the draw at plus 260 here. All right, Spanish La Liga. Friday, Almeria over Espanyol 3-1. Saturday, Cadiz over Mallorca 2-0. Barcelona over Girona 1-0. Sevilla over Elche 3-0. And Betis over Getafe 1-0. Sunday, Valladolid over Valencia 1-0. Atletico over Osasuna 1-0. Celta Vigo over Athletic 1-0. And Real Madrid and Real Sociedad 0-0 draw. One game today, 3 o'clock on ESPN Deportes, Villarreal and Rayo. Villarreal is minus 135. Rayo plus 360. Draw plus 250. Villarreal's better. They should win. And my pick does me over 2.5 goals at minus 102. Italian Serie A. Friday, Bologna over Spezia 2-0. Salernitana over Lecce 2-1. And Saturday, Empoli over Torino. Empoli and Torino 2-2 draw. Inter Milan over Cremonese 2-1. And Atalanta over Sampdoria 2-0. And yesterday, Sassuolo over Milan 5-2. Monza over Juventus 2-0. Lazio and Fiorentina 1-1 draw. And Napoli over AS Roma 2-1. One game today, 2:45. It's Udinese and Verona. Udinese is a minus 115 favorite. Verona's plus 320, draw plus 240. Udinese is better than Verona, so I'm going to lay the minus 115 with Udinese over Verona. All right, other soccer from the weekend and such. Mexican Liga, Monterrey over Puebla 2-1. Tijuana and UNAM 0-0 draw. Saturday, Tigres and Athletic San Luis 0-0 draw. America over Mazatlan 6-0. And Guadalajara over Juarez 2-1. Sunday, Toluca and Leon 0-0 draw. And Pachuca over Necaxa 2-1. All right, German Bundesliga Friday. RP Leipzig over Stuttgart 2-1. Saturday, Union Berlin over Hertha 2-0. Mainz over Bochum 5-2. Freiburg over Augsburg 3-1. Gladbach over Hoffenheim 4-1. Bremen over Wolfsburg 2-1. And Bayern and Frankfurt 0-0 or 1-1 draw. And then Sunday, Schalke and Cologne 0-0 draw. And Dortmund over Leverkusen 2-0. And then French League 1, last but not least, Friday, Lorient over Rennes 2-1. Saturday, Troyes and Lens 1-1 draw, and Marseille and Monaco 1-1 draw. And Sunday, Nice over Lille 1-0. Montpellier over Auxerre 2-0. Brest over Angers 4-0. Clermont Foot and Nantes 0-0 draw. Toulouse and Strasbourg, Toulouse on top 2-1. Lyon over AC Ajaccio 2-0. And PSG and Reims 1-1 draw. Alrighty. Now move on to tennis. We had the Australian Open finals. So the women's, you had 5-seed Arina Sabalenka over 22-seed Elena Rybakina in 3 sets to win the Grand Slam on the women's side. And then on the men's side, you had 4-seed Novak Djokovic over 3-seed Stefanos Tsitsipas in straight sets. So Djokovic beats Tsitsipas and wins the Australian Open. So congrats to Djokovic for another Grand Slam victory. And so the next tennis tournament I think we have the what's the next one that we're going to cover? The Grand Slam. The French Open. So that's not going to be for a while. Alrighty. Now move on to golf. The Farmers Insurance Open concluded over the weekend, and your winner with the score of 13 under was Max Homa. Second with 11 under, Keegan Bradley. Third with 10 under, Colin Morikawa. Tied for fourth with 9 under, Sam Ryder, Lee Thigley, and Sun J.M. Tied for seventh with 8 under, John Rahm and Jason Day. Tied for ninth with 7 under, Hideki Matsuyama and Tony Finau. Tied for 11th with 5 under, Ricky Fowler and Taylor Moore. Tied for 13th with 4 under, Xander Schauffele, Joseph Brumlett, Jimmy Walker, Samuel Stevens, and Eric Barnes. Tied for 18th with 3 under, Kevin Twain, Justin Rose. Tied for 20th with 2 under, Adam Schenk, Brendan Steele, Peter Malnati, Seung-Hoon Kim, Justin Sue, and Peter Malnati. Tied for 25th with 1 under. Luke List, Callum Tarrant, Jonathan Vegas, Saiwoo Kim, Justin Thomas, and Ben Grant. Tied for 31st at even. Maverick McNeely, Trey Mullinex, Ben Griffin, Taylor Montgomery, Sam Piercy, and Augusto Nunez. Notables. Tied for 37th with 1 over. Dylan Fratelli, Michael Thompson, Alex Smalley, Luke Griffin, Wyndham Clark, Thomas Dietrich. Tied for 44th with 2 under, or 2 over. Nate Hardy, Victor Norman, Adam Hadwin, Emiliano Greeno, Harry Higgs. 52nd with 3 over. Aaron Rice. Tied for 53rd with 4 over. Cam Champ, Stefan Yeager, Sodi Kodiara, Grayson Higo, Austin Cook. Tied for 60th with 5 over. Kevin Stroman and Taylor Pendrith tied for 62nd with 6 over. Ryan Palmer, Gary Woodland tied for 67th with 7 over. Robbie Shellen tied for 69th with 8 over. David Thompson, Andrew Novak, Scott Harrington. 72nd with 10 over. Scott Brown. 73rd with 11 over. Adam Long. And among those cut, Doug Gim, Alex Baddeley, Matthew Neesmith, Henrik Norlander, Will Zalatoris, Jonathan Bird, Scott Stallings, Patton Kazir, Robert Streb, Bayou Hostler, Adam Svebson, Eric Cole, Patrick Rogers, Sebastian Munoz, Tyler Duncan, Martin Laird, Taylor Alexander, Danny Lee, Ben Martin, JJ Spawn, Will Gordon, Brian Stewart, Doc Redmond, Jason Duffner, Harry English, Cam Young, Richie Wierenski, Kurt Katayama, Michael Giljic, Patrick Knowles, Bryce Garnett, Camilo Vegas, Rory Sabatini, Kyle Stanley, MJ Daffey, and Ben Crane. Next tournament is the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro AM, which will get underway on Thursday. We'll preview and pick it on the podcast when the time comes. All right, now I'm going to do my first mock bracket of 2023. This was a difficult list to put together. So without further ado, here we go. My number 1 overall seed in the Midwest region, the Purdue Boilermakers. My number 2 overall seed, 1 seed in the East region, the Virginia Cavaliers. My number 3 seed overall, and number 1 seed in the South region, the Alabama Crimson Tide. And my number 4 overall seed, my 1 seed in the West region, the Houston Cougars. All right, my 2 seeds. In the West, Iowa State, Midwest, Tennessee, South, Kansas State, East, Illinois. 3 seeds. In the South, Xavier. In the East, UConn. Midwest, Texas. West, Gonzaga. 4 seeds. East, Kansas. West, Marquette. Mountain West, TCU. And South, Arizona. Your 5 seeds. In the West, Baylor. In the East, UCLA. The South, Clemson. Midwest, Pitt. 6 seeds. In the South, Texas A&M. In the Midwest, NC State. In the East, Duke. In the West, Auburn. 7 seeds. In the West, Miami. South, Rutgers. East, San Diego State. Midwest, Providence. 8 seeds. South, Northwestern. Midwest, Boise State. West, Indiana. East, Missouri. 9 seeds. In the South, St. Mary's. In the West, North Carolina. In the East, Michigan State. In the Midwest, Creighton. 10 seeds. In the Midwest, Iowa. In the South, Kentucky. East, West Virginia. West, Florida Atlantic. Yes, I have Florida Atlantic as an at-large. 11 seeds. In the West, USC. In the South, New Mexico. Midwest, St. Louis. East, Memphis. 12 seeds. Play-in match in the West, Nevada, Arkansas. And the play-in in the Midwest, Utah State, Utah. So my last teams in are Nevada, Arkansas, Utah State, and Utah. So 2 Mountain West teams in Dayton, a Pac-12 team, and a teetering SEC team in Arkansas. And your other 2 12 seeds in the South, I have Oral Roberts. In the East, I have Charleston. 13 seeds. East, Louisiana. Midwest, UMass Lowell. South, Liberty, and West Furman. 14 seeds. In the South, I have Drake. In the Midwest, I have Iona. In the West, I have Colgate. In the East, I have Stephen F. Austin. 15 seeds. Midwest, I have UNC Asheville. In the East, I have Tennessee Martin. In the South, I have UC Santa Barbara. In the West, I have Princeton. And in the 16 seeds. In the South, I have Montana State. In the West, I have Youngstown State. And then a play-in the East, Wagner and Southern. And then the play-in in the West, Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, and Norfolk State. And how I projected the mid-major and small majors conference winners or conference tournament winners is I did my rating number and combine with the records and see who has the highest advantage. That's how I played it out. And then I had some honorable mentions who I have as 1 seeds in the NIT. Temple, Oklahoma State, Maryland, St. John's. 2 seeds in the NIT. Penn State, Oklahoma, Wisconsin, VCU. And then 2 3 seeds in the NIT. Arizona State and Florida. And I guess the next 2 would be UCF and Tulane. So notable matchups in here. So I have Indiana, North Carolina as a first round match. So that's interesting. Because those 2 teams played earlier in the year. San Diego State, West Virginia would be interesting. Providence, Iowa. Kentucky, Rutgers. So that's going to be an instance where the 10th seed would be favored over the 7th seed. New Mexico and Texas A&M. A team that's been strong in conference play and a team that got off to a good start in non-con play that's continued it into conference play. Duke, Memphis. So Penny Hardaway against Duke. Clemson would play Oral Roberts. Charleston, 2-loss Charleston would play UCLA. Nevada, Arkansas play-in winner would play Baylor. And I think Arkansas and Baylor just played each other, if I'm not mistaken. And Utah State, Utah winner would play Pitt. Possible round of 32 matches would be Gonzaga potentially against Auburn. Virginia, Michigan State. Creighton, Purdue. Alabama either against Northwestern or St. Mary's. Houston against either North Carolina or Indiana. Illinois against either West Virginia or San Diego State. Pitt against TCU. That would be funny because that would be the Jamie Dixon Bowl. Marquette, Baylor. That's a rematch from earlier in the year when Marquette blew out Baylor. You have the dream matchup of Kansas and UCLA. Potential Sweet 16 matches would be Kansas State, Xavier, 2 teams that are kicking ass in conference play right now. UConn, Illinois. Texas, Tennessee, which we just saw on Saturday. Gonzaga, Iowa State. Arizona, Alabama. Or Clemson, Alabama, which would be funny. Virginia against either Kansas or UCLA. Purdue against either TCU or Pitt. potential Elite Eight matches. We would have Gonzaga against Houston again, or Gonzaga against Marquette or Baylor. Alabama against Kansas State or Xavier. Purdue against either Tennessee or Texas. Illinois against Virginia, or Illinois against Kansas, or Kansas against UConn. UCLA, UConn would be in the Elite Eight, potentially, in this mock bracket. And then Final Four national title game is like a free-for-all, like it is each and every year. All right, so there was my mock bracket. Now I'll move on to the news and notes for today. We're just going to do rapid-fire news and notes. So obviously the Chiefs were having fun last night. Both Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes called out the Cincinnati mayor. Mahomes says he's the mayor of Cincinnati, so he's got to think about something. And then Jamar Chase had a question about the controversial third down reset in the game. That was one of the brutal calls that cost the Bengals. Kayvon Thibodeau of the Giants chirped on the 49ers during the NFC title game, and Eric Armstead was not having it. And Joe Staley called out Thibodeau and says, a flash player, and dismisses his game. So Kayvon Thibodeau is turning into a little bit of a trash talker. He's giving me the Myles Garrett vibes of like that personality. Giants defensive coordinator Wink Martindale gets his second interview with the Colts. Something else controversial, the Empire State Building was lit green for the Eagles, which was disgusting. I don't know if that was Mayor Adams in charge of that or what. Whoever did that should be fired. And then there was a big brawl in the NFC title game. Trent Williams was ejected for tossing an Eagles player to the ground late in the game. They were just frustrated at that point. They gave up. Damar Hamlin posted a thank you video. I couldn't do this without any of the support. And then the NFL came out with a statement on Tyree Nichols. The league says it remains deeply committed to combating injustice. Everybody's coming out with statements, and rightfully so. Just a sad situation in Memphis. So thoughts and prayers to everybody involved. And to Nichols' family. There's more stuff that we have to get into. Mecole Hardman came back for the Chiefs against the Bengals. The Chiefs did lose L'Jarius Sneed in the game as he was being evaluated for a concussion. Kyler Murray likely back mid-season as he recovers from his ACL surgery and torn meniscus. Jonathan Taylor had ankle surgery on Wednesday and will be back in time for training camp. Tua Tagovailoa skipping the Pro Bowl as he'll remain in concussion protocol. The Cowboys part ways with Kellen Moore. The Chargers are to interview Kellen Moore, and the Bucs are interested as well. The Dolphins won't pursue Todd Brady as they plan to stick with Tua. And of course, they're going to be in the quarterback rumor mill because of Tua and his concussion problems from this season. League sources are convinced that the Packers prefer to move on from Aaron Rodgers. That is a big deal. And there's going to be a lot of teams in play for him. The Broncos meet with Jim Harbaugh, despite Harbaugh's commitment to Michigan. Multiple teams are eyeing Eric Bieniemy, as the Ravens and Titans are among teams interested for their offensive coordinator position. But he's in the Super Bowl. Is his contract up after the year? The Rams hire Mike LaFleur as their new offensive coordinator, so he's back with Sean McVay after getting fired from the Jets. The Cardinals are still in on Sean Payton. D'Amico Ryans is the top candidate for the Texans and is the favorite for that job. I thought he was favorite for Denver's job. The Falcons hire Ryan Nielsen as its new defensive coordinator, who is obviously the co-DC for the Saints. Jalen Hurts is in line for a massive deal and is a massive part of the team's future. And both sides will be working on a monster extension this offseason. The Dolphins hired Vic Fangio to become the league's highest paid defensive coordinator after agreeing to a 3-year contract. Stetson Bennett arrested with public intoxication early yesterday morning in Dallas. That's not great. Albany State head coach Quinn Gray apologizes after offering a white player who had Florida scholarship rescinded for using an anti-black slur. I'm sorry, this kid should not be playing right now. I know it's a controversial story and everything, but this kid literally cost himself big with his mistake. So now I'm doing rapid fire with the other sports. NBA, the refs admit a mistake after LeBron cut out the bad no call. The refs respond, mistake was gut-wrenching and will cause sleepless nights. And LeBron and Jason Tatum was joking around on Instagram, and LeBron says that he didn't get it. Late game no calls happened to nobody else, he said. The Pacers extend Miles Turner 2 years, $58 million. Interesting contract extension for somebody that's been in trade rumors for a long time now. Teams are monitoring Chris Paul as a potential trade target ahead of the deadline. Whoo, baby. Is this because the Suns are falling apart? Trey Murphy joins the dunk contest with KJ Martin, Mac McClung, and Shaden Sharp. There's rumors about Bones Highland being on the trade block as Denver's eyeing a defensive-minded front court player and a reserve point guard. The Blazers offered Jeremy Grant a $112 million deal. He's not accepted that, but can receive a deal as large as 5 years, $233 million. Yikes. That would be the worst contract in the league if he signs that. 5 for $233. Nets seeking front court depth as they want to add a backup big behind Nick Claxton prior to the deadline. Makes sense. Lonzo Ball nowhere close to returning from knee injury, which required 2 surgeries. Luka Doncic day-to-day with the mild ankle sprain. Knicks forward Cam Reddish expected to be moved for a combination of a second-round pick and a player. If they can get a first for Reddish, that'd be nice. A second-round pick and a player would be okay, depending on who it's from and what kind of second-round pick it is. Austin Matthews to miss time with a knee sprain. 3 weeks. Not great for the Maple Leafs. Big story in the WNBA. Breanna Stewart narrows her list down to the Storm and the Liberty. Woo! If the Liberty get her, we got to have Mags on the podcast. Well, we got to have Mags on anyway. But theirs was a big signing. Candace Parker lands with the Vegas Aces. So, that's a big signing for them. And then Brittany Sykes to the Mystics on a 3-year deal. So, that's a big one. USA hosting 2024 Copa America as U.S. men's national team among 6 teams to feature in the new era of South America's flagship tournament. And a couple baseball ones. Yandy Diaz extension for the Rays. 3 years, $24 million. Not a bad extension for the Rays. Jeff McNeil extension with the Mets, 4 years, $50 million. That is a great contract for the Mets. And arbitration, Gleyber Torres and the Yankees, 1 year, almost $10 million for Gleyber Torres. All right, and last but not least, my best bet of the day brought to you by FanDuel. I don't know where to go today. There's a couple that I liked, but the soccer one jumped out to me. But it went up to minus 120 with Udinese over Verona. And the Blues Jets over went down to minus 106. So, I'm going to lay the big juice with Udinese over Verona. It's minus 120. I'll lay the unit for my best bet of the day in soccer. Italian Serie A, Udinese, minus 120 over Verona. All right, so that's it for the show. I'll be back tomorrow recapping everything from today. Look ahead to everything tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be my first NFL mock draft. Every mock draft after this one is going to be on a podcast that will be a subscribed podcast that you would have to pay a little juice to get that podcast in particular. It won't be tomorrow, but it'll be one down the road. So I hope you guys have a great day, everyone.